The movie begins in Paris, where a journalist tells us about how the mutant leader, Professor Charles, was killed by a former NSA agent called Henry Gyrich. Mutants are like humans, but they have strange powers. They also have emotions as they mourn the death of their leader. The scene suddenly takes us to a facility, where a mutant boy is being captured by some men. The mysterious buyers are paying them 10 grand for every mutant they kidnap, and a collar is placed on the mutant neck to restrain their powers. The mutant boy begs them not to hurt him as he introduces himself as Roberto da Costa, heir to the da Costa fortune. He is willing to pay them any amount to let him go, but they tell him it's not about the money. Mutants are like creatures from hell to them and must all be eliminated. Just as one of the men is about to pull the trigger, they hear a very loud scary thunder, which is a sign that another mutant is in their midst. Each of the men immediately grabbed a gun called the Sentinel Blaster and spread themselves out on alert. A mutant called Storm, the mistress of Element, emerges out of the roof and threatens the men to surrender the boy or face her fury. They all release fire at her, and that's when one of her colleagues, Bishop, who is also a mutant, shows up to assist in taking down the men with his powers. Okay, I haven't done the introduction yet. There are good guys mutants called the X-Men, who use their powers for good, like stopping crimes. These members include Magneto, Storm, Morph, Jean, Cyclops, Wolverine, Beast, Rogue, Bishop, Gambit, and Jubilee. The fight keeps getting epic, which another member called Cyclops shows up and beats the men like a karaoke drum. He gets captured by the men leader, who used a blast from the Sentinel tech to restrain him. They removed his glasses thinking it's the source of his powers, but it's actually his eyes. Cyclops shows him no mercy. At the X-Men headquarters, Cyclops is angry at Gambit for not showing up when they needed him, but Rogue defends him. Ever since the professor died, things haven't been easy and the bounty on mutants are getting higher. All Cyclops wants them to do is to stay vigilant, but Rogue tells him he worries too much and he should at least catch a break. Roberto, the boy the X-Men rescued from the facility, wakes up to be greeted by Beast and Jubilee, the team's doctor and scientists. The boy wants to go back home, but Cyclops lets him know that those people that once captured him are still out there and might kill him. They explain they are the good guys who are out to help out mutants like him. The X-Men ask the boy about the weapons his attacker used, as they want to know if he has an idea where they acquired it, but the boy has no clue. Since he is going to be staying under the protection of the X-Men for a day until those attackers are defeated, Roberto asks he should be taken to somewhere fun in the building at least. Jubilee knows just a perfect place. She takes him to the Danger Room, a place where the X-Men trains. Wolverine shows up and they all figure out a way to find Roberto powers which he hasn't discovered yet. Cyclops, on the other hand, is being informed by Dr. Cooper about a group of anti-mutants with Sentinel's weaponry. Normally bullets or weapons can hardly hurt a mutant, but Sentinel's weapons can easily kill a mutant in one blow. Cyclops is so worried about this and is more curious to know who is supplying them with these weapons. The first person that got to his mind is Bolivar Trask, a mad scientist who once tried to kill the president with his invention, but Cooper assures him that Bolivar Trask has been missing ever since, and his master mold factory, which he wanted to use to build Sentinel weapons, was once destroyed by the X-Men. Jean, his wife, suggests they should live the X-Men and focus on their lives, especially when they are about to have a baby, but Cyclops detests against this because they were the professor's first students and the X-Men really needs them. But it seems he might not really have a choice because he will be putting their unborn child in grave danger. Just during the argument, a ball is smashed through the window. Cyclops goes to find out what is going on, and Jubilee tells him that Wolverine scared Roberto off. What if those creeps with Sentinel weapons find him? Cyclops orders them all to go as a group to find Roberto. Wolverine tells Cyclops that he doesn't like being bossed around, but Jean begs him to go. After they left, it turns out that Cyclops has a plan on his own. He wants to see a person that will help them find the mad scientist Bolivar Trask, whom he believes to be the supplier of those Sentinel weapons. Wolverine tracks down Roberto's location to a club, all thanks to his scent powers, and the X-Men all spread out to find the little kid. Jubilee finds Roberto, who promises to go back with her if she dances with him. Cyclops, Bishop, and Storm go to prison to see Henry Gyrich, a man who killed their leader, Professor Charles. They believe he knows the whereabouts of Bolivar Trask, the creator of those Sentinel weapons, because he was the one who funded his Sentinel program. They promise to remove 10 years from his sentence in prison if he collaborates, but Henry Gyrich is a man that would rather die than help a mutant. Mutants are making them, the ordinary humans, to feel inferior, and he wishes they could all be wiped up for good. The X-Men have tried to do this the easy way, but since the man refuses to give him answers, they decided to torture it out of him. Cyclops calls on his wife Jean at home, who uses a tech called the Cerebro to amplify her psychic powers, which allowed her to penetrate the thoughts of Henry Gyrich from a far distance. But what she saw in his mind is so terrifying. Trask, the mad scientist, is creating a weapon capable of sending mutants to extinction from a blast. The X-Men immediately fly their jet to find Trask in the Sahara Desert, all thanks to Jean's psychic scan which revealed to them his location. Just as they strategize on how to capture the villain Master Mold, one of Trask's robots attacks their jet. Cyclops uses his vision to slow down his falling speed, while the ones that can fly in the team assist the others to land safely. The X-Men finally finds Trask, who sends his Master Mold to kill them. His Master Mold are gigantic robots who he programmed to kill mutants, but as they say unity is strength, the X-Men unite their powers to take down the robots, and just as more robots keeps coming, Storm shows up from nowhere like a goddess and creates a hurricane which destroys the robots all at once. Trask unleashes a one more bigger robot, but Wolverine and Gambit combine their techniques together to behead the Master Mold. Dr. Cooper later shows up with the UN agents and arrested Trask, and yet again, humanity is in the X-Men debt. Jubilee tells Roberto that he could stay with them if he wants to. Here they don't treat mutants like just students, but also as a family. It's then Roberto decides to reveal his powers, which is some sort of solar energy, but he doesn't know much about it apart from it makes him really strong. Roberto gives his contact card to Jubilee, who has been the most friendly to him. He wishes not to stay in the boring X-Men basement and asks Jubilee to come visit him sometime at his mansion. After a while playing football, the X-Men sense an intruder enter the quarters and goes to check it out. It is Magneto, the Professor X's best friend. According to the wishes of the professor before he died, Magneto shows up to take charge of the X-Men team. Episode 2 begins in an amusement park where some kids are in danger due to the roller coaster is damaged, but Magneto uses his metal power to repair the coaster and saves the day. He even rescues some mutants that were captured. The X-Men, especially Cyclops, doesn't like the idea of Magneto being the leader judging from his dark past, but there is nothing he can do since it's the late professor's last wish, but still Cyclops doesn't trust him. He asks Jean to scan his mind at least to find out what his true intentions are, but she refuses. The X-Men made it clear to Magneto that they will never be able to trust him as their leader, only if he proves himself, which he accepts. Jean is worried about Cyclops because they plan to live the X-Men and take care of their baby that is about to be born, but she believes Cyclops won't leave anymore, to keep an eye on Magneto. As Storm helps Jean pack her loads, she reveals her greatest fear to Storm, which is about her unborn baby. If her child turns out to be a mutant, how will they explain to him that he's different and he should always be on guard from the world who wants his nature dead? In case you don't know, Magneto and Professor Charles were once best friends, but they became enemies when Magneto uses his powers for an unjustly cause. But to honor his ex-best friend's last wish, he has changed for good. Rogue advises him not to keep demanding for the X-Men trust, but he should have to earn it. Just then they hear a chopper heading towards their basement, and they all arm themselves in defense. It is the United Nations agents led by Cooper who came by the orders of uncommission of superhuman activities. She has come to place Magneto under arrest for his past crime against humanity. He will stand trial at the UN headquarters. To earn the trust of the X-Men, Magneto surrenders to the UN agents and is taken to their headquarters. Protesters are outside the court yelling that Magneto and other mutant to be executed. A guy called Denty, who wears executioner mask, is also revealed to hate mutants with passion. He plans to use his weapon to help the protesters breach through the court, but the weapon is not just for that. Magneto is brought to court to be judged for his past crimes. They gave him a chance to speak, and he tells a story about his childhood, how the so-called humans chased him and his family just because they are mutant. Mutant also wants to live freely like the humans, but all the government did is to chain them like dogs with collars on their neck and sending robots to hunt them down. He claims his crime were just out of revenge for Professor Charles' deaths and in protecting his kind. While he talks, a blast is heard from outside the court gate, which turns out to be the protesters trying to get inside the court, wanting all mutants to be exterminated for good. All security personnel and the X-Men go out to calm the situation, while Storm is asked to stay behind and watch Magneto. Wolverine, who is still at the headquarters, tries to go to the court to help his teammates, but another issue arises as Jean is about to conceive her baby. He rushes her at full speed to the hospital. Just as they arrive at the hospital, the doctor refuses to help her conceive because she's a mutant. Wolverine calls Cyclops to inform him about his wife's situation. Storm orders Rogue to fly Cyclops to the hospital to help his wife immediately, while she and Magneto would protect the judges from the protesters. Cyclops warns her about the risk on freeing Magneto, but circumstances do not offer them a choice as Storm tells the judges to uncollar Magneto so he can help put the protesters in control. Cyclops later arrives at the hospital to help his conceiving wife. He asks Rove to use her powers to siphon the medical expertise, which she does immediately. On the other hand, as the protesters find their way into the court using weapons like guns, Magneto decides to put an end to this nonsense by manipulating the surrounding metals to cage them like the very animals they are behaving. While distracted, Dendy takes the opportunity to eliminate Magneto. He uses a gun, and it's here we are going to see the other thing the gun can do. Storm spotted Dendy aiming at Magneto, but since it was too late to warn him, she takes the shot for him, but this came with huge consequences. Storm realizes that she can no longer control the weather. It's obvious that the blast from Dendy's gun took away her powers. Magneto wants to be calm, but people just love seeing his other side. He angrily catches Dendy and disarms him. Magneto becomes so angry with the UN and the humans because he knows this is what they all wanted. All the X-Men has ever done is to use their awesome powers to protect the sane world that hates and fears them. And is this their reward for doing that? No matter what they do, they cannot be good enough to the humans. Magneto decides to stop trying to please them and instead decides to punish them for what they did to Storm. He takes Dendy, Cooper, and all the UN officials high into the clouds. We see tears rolling from his eyes as he calls them all sort of names like bigots and ingrates. There was a time that he would have smite them all for what they did to Storm, but now he's different. Charles Xavier entrusted him with his dreams, and it does not ask the humans to embrace his kind as their own, but merely to accept that this is a shared world with a common future, and that his kind like the humans have the right to live in it. Magneto concludes to them that he is trying to be better, and begs them not to make him let them down. At the hospital, Jean successfully gave birth to her baby, and they decided to name him Nathan. Later on the news, it is announced on how the United Nations stunned the world as they issued a pardon for Magneto, crediting him and the X-Men for saving the Tribunal and quelling the insurrection. Cyclops offers tea to Magneto, revealing how he and his wife are planning to leave very soon to raise their child, because they now trust him leading the X-Men. All Magneto has to say about his leaving is by advising him to be very careful because tragedy lures with fortune first. At the lab, Beast makes his researches to find a way to restore Storm powers, but the results is really bad. The radiation that came out from Executioner laser rifle Dendy used on Storm affected her genetics, suppressing her abilities without the need of the collar itself. Beast specifically reveals to Storm that the effect of the radiation from the gun appeared to have permanently removed her powers. Later that night, Storm leaves a goodbye letter to Jean and the other X-Men. She no longer has powers, so she has considered herself not to be an X-Men anymore and doesn't want to burden them in any way. A knock on the door gets the X-Men attention. They open it to see another Jean, but this one is from the future, asking for the help of the X-Men, and that was how this episode ended. The next episode will be out next week. If you don't want to miss out, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.